Peace, everyone. This is God in them streets. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and definitely share. This video is called The Unmasking of the Jay-Z Lawsuit. What is a theory? A supposition or system of ideals intended to explain something, especially one based on general principles independent of the thing to explain. Example, set of principles on which the practice of an activity is based. An ideal used to account for a situation or justify a course of action. Example, my theory would be that the place has been seriously mismanaged. What is a conspiracy? A secret plan by a group to do something unlawful or harmful. Example, she served 5 years in prison for taking part in a conspiracy to sell stolen art. Example 2, the action of plotting or conspiring. They were cleared of conspiracy to prevent the course of justice. My audience has to make the decision of whether this is a theory or a conspiracy. We all know that every time a black man reaches a pinnacle in his life and is very successful and wants to have ownership of certain things that have normally only been amongst certain groups of people, that it doesn't come out right. One of the examples is Bill Cosby. He wanted to buy NBC. All of a sudden, his son was killed on the highway, wasn't robbed, didn't have any enemies. Case was never really resolved. Number 2, when Michael Jackson had the ownership of the Beatles catalog, they wanted it so bad until they turned Michael Jackson into a person. You have to make a choice. Is this a conspiracy or a theory against Jay-Z and P. Diddy? I watch a lot of bloggers, but Akademiks has a way of explaining things. And I'm along the course of agreeing with him as to his theory of why now they are attacking Jay-Z.
The Illuminati chest didn't stop there, chat. Tony Busby clapped back with accusations of his own. 4 hours ago, he says, investigators from New York have called many of her law firm's current and former clients. What they didn't anticipate was one of the clients decided to record the conversation. Fucking plot twist. What we just read was supposedly a anonymous former client saying Tony Busby wanted me to lie. And when I wouldn't lie, they dropped me. Now Tony Busby claps back immediately saying investigators from New York, basically hinting that Jay-Z's lawyers have called many of our law firm's current and former clients. What they didn't anticipate was one of our clients decided to record the conversation. So they're going to file this tomorrow, I would imagine. It's shocking and illegal. Here's a portion taken from the transcript. So the investigator says, hey, in a couple of days or maybe by next week, anybody Googling Busby, his company, his practice, are going into litigation, okay? What we're trying to do is we're trying to put this thing together for the company that we work for. We could get you paid. You could get some money, right? Soon, you know? We gave this kid $1,000 to start yesterday just to get him on the right path. At the end of the day, this is going through the courts. Busby's getting sued. It says these guys are on tape offering to pay clients to sue our firm. That's a crime. Oh shit. This is good drama. Jay-Z says that one of Tony Busby's former client came to his lawyers saying, nah, yeah, that dude wanted us to lie. That would have helped Jay-Z, because the judge might say, wow, this is kind of some proof that maybe some of these tactics you're using are trumped up and meant to pressure and whatever, and you're getting people to lie. By the way, huge violation in court. Huge violation. A lawyer is supposed to do their due diligence, even if say someone comes in and say, yo, I got fucked by Saddam Hussein. Before you file that lawsuit, you're supposed to do a little bit of due diligence. Hey, when did this happen? Where did this happen? How do we know or have some proof?
If she was 13, 24 years ago, is now 37 years old. So you mean to tell me that by now, this has gone on 13 years old? What the devil's happening? Didn't your mama get upset about it? Your father get upset about it? About where were you? And you didn't deal with it? What's happening 24 years ago is a lot of time when it comes to witnesses. You can't put a trial on, and there are all sorts of other things evidentiary-wise when it comes to the proof that a person is able to generate and put on in a courtroom that is very much stacked against the defendant. I have watched in a trial while some horrible stuff goes on. One of the worst I've ever seen didn't have anything to do with a statute of limitations. It was a criminal charge. This person was indicted for an especially aggravated charge of R, and what saved him was a very interesting and absolute save. There was a lot of confusion about when this has supposedly occurred, and when it was nailed down, fortunately, two of the defendant's buddies were still in the United States Army, and they got his records sent over by a master sergeant. And when they got there, the state wanted to object to them being allowed to put on their proof. I let them do it, and it turned out that the defendant was in a tank turret, an M60 tank turret in Germany, right there between West Germany and East Germany at the Fulda Gap, guarding the West from a tank incursion coming out of the Ukraine. And this was supposed to have been 1989 when this occurred. The trial was in 1991. And this man was in a tank turret. He was a tank commander, and he had no leave, and he was verified to be there with the division records, regimental records, and the battalion records, operating a tank on a full-blown NATO exercise at the time this crime was supposed to be committed. So he was 9,000 miles away with no ability to get there, and he was there the day before in the field, bivouac. He commanded the tank. The tank got commemorated or cited for outstanding excellence in the activity, and he was there for the next 3 days, so it would have been possible for him. The other thing that I found interesting about it was we thought the case was going to be dismissed because it's set for trial for the third time, and the state is looking for its victim, and didn't realize they were looking at the victim, but they thought the victim was an ugly-looking guy. So he had been sitting there for the last 2-3 trial sittings, and she'd been sitting there in the witness room, and nobody even recognized it for being a woman.
What's your point?
The point is that sometimes when you get these boutique crimes, you get them out of hand, and they work an injustice if you don't have a very sharp defense lawyer, which this guy couldn't afford. And the only reason he got me was because the public defender's office had a conflict and the guy couldn't hire a private attorney.
Mm-hmm.
He got me as a judge, and I wound up giving him.
What does that have to do with the Jay-Z situation?
Well, in other words, it's just this thing that we had developed at that point, where there was a particular preference given to the prosecutability of certain kind of crimes versus others. So when you started slanting justice, saying we want to make it easier to prosecute this kind of crime with reduced standards of proof, you start running into instances of misjustice. If there had not been a judge like me presiding over the case to say, to hell with you, I'm letting this proof in, this man probably would have been convicted and his life ruined. As it was an innocent man who was on trial. He wasn't even in the United States of America.
Town as Saddam Hussein. Same building, same vicinity. Is there any conversations between y'all? Text messages, pictures? Did anybody post anything on the gram or on a story? You got to make sure that it kind of vibes and jives. You know what I mean? Because if you file a frivolous lawsuit, you stand and face the risk of being sanctioned and punished by the court. That happened, or it was, there's a motion to sanction Mr. Blackburn, who UMG caught him a few times, possibly doing some procedurally incorrect things. So a lawyer lying just to get either a judgment or get a salacious headline, especially if they're coercing their client to lie or to trump up a story, very unethical and definitely could have some ramifications. So Jay-Z's lawyer accuses Tony Busby of that. But then Tony Busby claps back and says, interesting, because what also is unethical is that you and investigators that we believe work for you through the proxy, which is your law firm, are calling around offering money to former clients to sue people. That's a big no-no and a crime. This is going to get really interesting, people.
Check this
really
out.
Interesting, okay?
Here come Act.
Here's my crazy theory. You can believe it if you want to. One of the reasons why Jay-Z wants to get this dismissed is because he's in the middle of trying to do a lot of big things. I believe he's trying to break into maybe sports team ownership a bit. But a big thing he has going on is Jay-Z Casino. So Jay-Z, a month ago, so Jay-Z's trying to become one of those guys. If you look at even like, say, the UFC is owned by the Fertitta brothers, and they own the Red Rock, they own most of the casinos. They actually they bought into the UFC stuff just because they're like, fuck it. These guys that own casinos are really wealthy. Okay? Now, there's a market for casinos in Northeast Jersey. I'll tell you how competitive it gets for casinos. If you're in New Jersey, which I am, the only casino that's allowed to do table games and regulate in person, you can do FanDuel, but it's only online, is in Atlantic City. Now, you have to remember, the thing with casinos is that casinos, even Vegas, anywhere casinos are, it sucks the life out of the economy out of the whole town. So the whole town becomes like, have to like live off these casinos. You go to Atlantic City or even like Vegas. Vegas is starting to expand a lot more. That's why they're trying to bring more sporting events there. But a lot of the revenue comes through casinos. By the way, the revenue that comes in through casinos gets heavily taxed. And there's almost a profit share thing there. And also, there's a lot of money that goes in there. Like, for example, I'll tell you this. If you like DraftKings or you like FanDuel or something like that, they'll never have a casino in Vegas. Never. Never. Also, for example, like FanDuel, you can't do FanDuel in Vegas. Why? Those casinos there, whether Caesars and all these places, they spend tens and hundreds of millions of dollars making sure no other competitor comes into that sphere. It's really competitive. Like, they don't want no new friends, no new niggas competing. Okay? Let's get back to the Jersey model, right? So if you look at gambling, by the way, gambling is such a big thing everywhere now. And by the way, it's interesting, people are just getting that Drake for gambling. Hey, this Jay-Z's trying to do even more than that. At least Drake is just, he's endorsing gambling. Jay's trying to own a casino. Levels, right? By the way, while we do that, look at this. DraftKings ad just pops up. You can't escape gambling, bro. You can't. Anyway, I have nothing to do with DraftKings, by the way. So, Jay-Z, so let me finish the story. In the Atlantic City is at the shit bottom of Jersey. You got to drive all the way down to go get to it. If you're in North Jersey, by where MetLife Stadium is, where it's kind of like 15 minutes from New York, you have to drive 2.5 hours to get to casino. Okay? So what ends up happening is that people are saying, yo, that's kind of like inconvenient. Why can't we just have a big old casino right by the place where we have all the games? Like, MetLife Stadium is right near to the bridge. People from New York will probably come over, blah, blah. They tried to do it. And the casinos in Atlantic City banded together because they knew, it's like this, if I sell weed and I'm the only weed spot and you got to drive 2 miles to get to the weed spot, if there's another nigga along the route that sell the same weed, you might say, he's only 3 blocks away. So essentially, all the casinos that's 2.5 hours away, Atlantic City, banded together, lobbied the government, started doing a lot of, because it becomes a very legislative. Very legislative. And they even went to say, hey, we're going to give you some of their revenue because we know you guys are going to lose out on revenue, because the state is kind of managing all this, to say, hey, we get it. If they put a casino by where MetLife, the Meadowlands is, people from New York ain't going to drive an extra 2 hours to get down to Atlantic City no more. So you know what? We'll give you, like, I don't know, 20% of whatever that comes out of there to subsidize what y'all got going on. They're like, fuck that, fuck that, Because currently, Atlantic City serves Pennsylvania. Niggas from Philly come there. Niggas from New York come there. And it's the only place in Jersey. So that's the only hot spot for all those places. They do have gambling in New York, but table games are banned. Okay? So it's kind of like a stripped down gambling, and people want the full experience. Okay? So Jay-Z is coming together with a couple other people to bring a casino to Times Square. Now, let me tell you what that means. You might as well just install a money printer. Times Square, the most populated place, most tourists. If you live in Jersey, that's more attractive. With all due respect to Atlantic City, it's a dump. Garbage. Like, and I don't mean to this people in Atlantic City, but we all know. Come on. Other than going to Atlantic City to gamble, you don't go there for nothing. Imagine going to Times Square, you go watch a Broadway play, you go watch a show, you go to Madison Square Garden, you go over there, you go out to eat, and then you could still gamble and then go to a strip club? Oh my God, this should be lit. That's what Jay was trying to do. So Jay is trying to bring a casino to basically cut off Jersey, but also eat up all the tourist population, and the biggest tourist population in the United States is coming through Times Square. So you know what he did? Look at the headline. This is how you know this is a money printer. He was going to give grants. He's giving away $250 million for free. Just that businesses around there, because you know what businesses around there are saying? A casino is never good for business for other businesses. Because what happens is people come to these places and lose their money. It also attracts a different environment. Like a lot of other thriving businesses don't like casinos. They don't like it. Okay? So because these things would require votes and people endorsing the idea, Jay-Z offered, yo, we give y'all $250 million in grants. Let's read through it. Jay-Z's looking to sweeten the pot on his Times Square casino bid. The rap icon and Rock Nation will commit $250 million in grant money for Hell's Kitchen if they land the bid to create a Caesar's Palace, Times Square Casino. Page 6 is learned. The hip-hop moguls Rock Nation-led group would give initially $15 million to the local community. You see? Yo, he's just giving everybody money because once you get in, remember, you need to get in. Once you get in, printing money. Printing. Okay? This 200, which is 65 because 250 give to grants for Hell Kitchen, and then 15 for local. Oh, that's chump change. You made that in like 2 weeks. 2 weeks. It's all good. Plus regular grants based on 0.5% of the casino's performance. Okay. The Caesar Palace Times Square team has already met with the residents of Manhattan Palace, Manhattan Plaza, the famed affordable housing for development for artists, to clue them into potential benefits we hear. Jay-Z said in a statement announcing that the grant initiative says we're New Yorkers. Supporting and providing opportunity for neighborhoods and communities isn't just part of our Rock Nation ethos. It's our collective responsibility. The Empire State of Mind artist added, any proposal that wins a gambling license will undoubtedly profit. So that's the thing. This Hell's Kitchen situation, they're first in line. They're first in line to get what's supposed going to be this coveted gambling license. Okay? It's like, I'll bring it down to, and again, it's always politics as usual, right? In a lot of these towns, especially a populated town, the reason why you don't see new businesses all the time is that the town will say, we only give out 200 liquor license. So you could build a bar, but you can't sell no fucking liquor. So what you have to do is you got to buy a liquor license from someone or buy an establishment with the liquor license because the town doesn't issue anymore. So this gambling license, once you have that and you could open a business where gambling is allowed in Times Square, oh my God, you're printing cash, right? Okay. So it says, any proposal that wins the gaming license, or gambling license, right, will undoubtedly profit. Our vision is to give back to New York and ensure that the Broadway community, Hell's Kitchen, and surrounding business all benefit. You got to imagine some of these businesses probably be like, I don't know if I want a bunch of D-gens just coming over here and just gambling, bro. And not just for the minute, but for the long term. Rock Nation is looking to move forward, okay, into the gambling world after New York City was greenlit for a gaming license and has teamed with Caesars and SL Green. Other players vying to land the biz at different locations include Saks Fifth Avenue, Mohegan Suns, Wynn Resorts, and Greenwood Gaming and Entertainment, Resort World Casino, and more. They're all putting their chips on the table to win the coveted license. Now, I'm not too sure how many are going to be given out.
As you can see, Ak has explained this very well. There's always a hidden agenda. This is why I stress that you watch this video in totality and see how I break down the case with this 13-year-old girl. Once again, God in them streets definitely do not support pedophiles. But the truth is the truth, and the truth must be revealed. Subscribe, like, and share. Anyone's behalf that has abused a child, mentally, physically, or emotionally. But I am here tonight strictly to break down this case. I would first like to start by letting y'all know in different states you have different age of maturity. New York, you're classified as an adult, a woman at 17. In Jersey, it would be at the age of 16. And other states, depending on what state you're in, is depending on whether a person can be considered an adult at 16, 17, 18 is the age across the board. So, Jay-Z, with all the pictures that been put up, Foxy, they say she was 15 years old. Other people say that she was 17. But as you can see in the statement, Foxy said she will not contribute by making any allegations or saying anything that would contribute to Jay-Z's downfall as far as being a pedophile by dealing with her while she was underage. We're not hearing anything from Rihanna. We're not hearing things from other individuals that was around them while they were young and accusing him of sexually taking advantage of. I thought all the time it was innocent until proven guilty. But amongst the black community, we are the first ones to go for our own people's heads. This is not a black or white thing. This is a reality thing of young individuals being taken advantage of. But I'm just here now to go through the case and to see if you can identify with what I identify with in this case. Also in this video, I will be using segment of Judge Brown's expertise.
Jay-Z, right?
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
So, breaking news. This came down yesterday. Jay-Z is named in a civil suit alleging this is going to use R for that word, for a letter, of a 13-year-old in 2000. A new lawsuit accuses Jay-Z and Sean Diddy Combs of R-ing a 13-year-old girl at a party following the 2000 MTV VMAs. The accuser, Jane Doe, claimed she was drugged and assaulted by both men at a house party. The lawsuit, originally filed in October against Combs, was refiled Sunday to include Jay-Z. Combs already faces federal charges, including sex trafficking, while Jay-Z team has yet to comment. Doe is seeking damages under New York's Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act. Now, Jay-Z did respond yesterday.
My reaction to that is the law has gotten ridiculously out of hand here. If you take all of the states in the United States of America for a personal injury or a personal harm or wrong, there's generally either a 1, 2, or very rarely a 3-year statute of limitations. In other words, if somebody says, okay, the state may be charging this guy with murder as a criminal charge, we the family can charge this guy with a civil charge of homicide. We get 1 year or 2 years, maybe 3. But somebody pinches a booty or a titty, they get 50 years to file their lawsuit. It's like, excuse me, the squeeze is not as serious.
The night in question, which if I got it right, I think it was around September the 7th of 2002, in which at that time, Jay-Z still had not gotten past his case from stabbing Rivera in the club. Now remember that after Jay-Z was let out on that $50,000 bond, he was placed on house arrest. So if he was placed on house arrest, that would mean that he would have to report to his probation officer or those that are in charge of his case. He would not be able to go out to any award shows or do anything without giving them knowledge. Jay-Z did not settle out that case with Rivera until October of 2002. So that means that he still was held accountable to the system. So he couldn't just move around any old way. Now they do show Jay-Z at a party in a downtown club in Manhattan on the same night of this incident, this alleged incident that occurred. So let's take our time right now and walk through this. Here you have a 13-year-old girl, okay, in the city of New York trying to get into an award show. Okay, her 16-year-old friend supposedly dropped her off at this show, in which we know there's numerous other females that might be at the age of 18, 19, 20, 30 or whatever. Because there's a big difference between a girl or a teenage woman that's 16, 17, or 18 that's trying to be an adult woman over a 13-year-old. We know that most 13-year-olds are just starting to physically develop. So what made her look so outstanding that while she is out there trying to get into this award show, that she runs into a limo driver? The first person that should definitely be accused of this crime, because she stated that the limo driver, when she got in the conversation, however he may have engaged with her to cause this conversation, stated that, look, you look like the type that Diddy and Jay-Z would like. And if you stay here, I'm going to drop them off and I'm going to come back and get you for the party. So, a crime is when you intentionally, knowingly, or voluntarily engage in something that is unlawful. So, this limousine driver has engaged in something unlawful because he's taking a child, a 13-year-old girl, from in front of the award show to a private party. Culprit number one. Anytime you act in concert, aid and abet, you are a suspect or a defendant in that particular crime. So, the chauffeur is number one. Okay? He took her from the award show to this house that she said was all white with a horseshoe gate. She entered the party and had to sign a disclaimer that anything that you see that go on here tonight or whatever, you can't speak on it, you can't record it, you can't take any pictures, okay? Co-conspirator number 2 would now be the individual that allowed her to sign this disclaimer to get into this party. Now, we all know when we go to the city or whatever, you got a bunch of individuals that may be underage and had the ability to get false ID, which now at the clubs and buying alcohol and different things, they have come up with technology that can see if your ID is fake. So you mean to tell me this 13-year-old girl that is now getting ready to sign a disclaimer that the individual that's having her sign the disclaimer could not recognize that she's 13? Let's say, for instance, that she has a fantastic body for a 13-year-old girl. She has on plenty of makeup and everything else. But when a 13-year-old girl, a 12-year-old girl, 11-year-old girl, a 10-year-old girl open their mouth, you will know that that person is a person that is underage. So now we have co-conspirator 2. Co-conspirator 1 was the limo driver. Co-conspirator number 2 is the person that had her sign the disclaimer to get into the party. Okay, so now we have 2 people that have participated in a crime because they didn't bother to check to see if this individual was underage, not unless they was all a part of this diabolical plan. So now she gets into the party. She sees all these different individuals moving around, freaky things taking place, but she's able to tell us that she sees cocaine. I know that I was out in the streets. Since I was 8 years old, I was riding mass transit in New York City by myself. Since I was 6 years old, the first grade, my mother gave me the key to get into the house on my own. But at 13 years old, I didn't know nothing about no cocaine. And even the most fastest individual that's in the streets, you know what I'm saying, is more of 25, 75% of those individuals that would know about cocaine, especially in the year of 2002, even though we had been through the crack era and everything else. So I'm not going to just be straightforward and say that it's impossible or whatever, but I would still like to think that the majority of the 13-year-olds here in America did not know what cocaine was. But she was able to identify these illegal substances. Now, as she moves around the party, she decides to take a drink. She didn't say whether the drink was alcohol, whether it was lemonade, or whether it was water. Or I might be a little mixed up. Maybe she did say that she took a bottle of water. Okay, after her taking this bottle of water and deciding to drink it, she now all of a sudden became fuzzy in the head, and she walked and found an empty room. First, I want to know, she came into the mansion. How did she know where the bedrooms was at, that even if she got drowsy off of this drug, would she be able to walk and find an empty bedroom in which she could lay down? Okay? Now follow me, y'all, with this story, because I just want to present the facts that the victim has presented in this lawsuit. So now this 13-year-old girl that done got into a party illegally, got driven to the party illegally, and all these things have now drank something that is classified with date rape. So she ends up in this room very vulnerable. And like I said, if I'm proven wrong and this proves to be right, because quite naturally, this has got to be a criminal case. There's no way that this just remain a civil lawsuit. And we know that now because in the state of New York, they have made it so that so many individuals that was violated sexually 20, 30 years ago, now they can come and make up any story and say this, that, and the third happened to me, which I think is totally unfair. And the great Honorable Judge Brown will explain it later on in this particular video. Okay, so now she's in the room laying down, and here comes Diddy, Jay-Z, and another co-conspirator, which is a well-known female celebrity. So now Diddy walks in. She claims that Diddy grabs her and slams her against the wall. At 13, I think that a female's body is still very fragile. So if he slammed her against the wall and she slid down the wall, now he was able to take more advantage of her by throwing her on the bed. And now here comes Jay-Z, Mr. Jigger, Hova, the God, all the above. And now he jumps on top of her, takes her clothes off, and begins to R her. While Diddy is in the background, smacking him on his buttocks, like, go do your thing, champ. Also, we have this celebrity woman that is watching a female child being R. So after Jay-Z is finished, now Diddy jumps up on her and he R's her. And when he's finished, he grabs her, throws her on her knees, and tries to get her to commit fellatio acts upon him. She somehow is able to fight her way out of that, grab her dress. I mean, if you incoherent and all of this is taking place, and especially I would think that a 13-year-old girl, not unless she's been very promiscuous with a lot of grown men, because it's a difference between a 13-year-old girl having sex with a boy 14, 15, 16 years old instead of two grown predators. It's a big difference. Her vagina would have been knocked out of place. She would have been in an awful lot of pain. But she was able to come up out of that, grab her dress, throw it around her like a towel, and now go running back out into this big party that's taking place. Nobody took the time to stop her. Nobody was shocked. Everybody was high. The music was so loud. All these things, all these variables was involved that nobody could see that an innocent child has just been violated. So now we got a whole party that did not see any of that. You got out the house. We don't know whether through the side door, the front door, or whatever. But she states that she gets out the house and she runs and she runs until she sees a familiar gas station. Upon her arriving at the gas station, she runs into another person that we can kind of use as, a person of interest. Because I would like to know that individual that was at that grocery store, because right then and there, as soon as she came in, under the condition that she was under, and I was a clerk at that store, I would have called the police immediately. But instead of the police being called, her father shows up. Now let's keep it 1,000. Those of us that's from the hood, not from the hood, it doesn't matter. All fathers, even if you was not around physically to raise your daughter, and your daughter called you and said, Daddy, I just been in a big white house at a party with two of the most well-renowned rappers in the world at that time, and they raped me. Of course, if it's me or any of my comrades, the first thing we're going to think about is going to get our gun and going back up there and killing those two individuals. But let's say, due to everything that happened, that I was calmed down and brought back to my senses, then as a father, I'm not a snitch. And this is where it's a thin line, because if y'all saying that you didn't make the decision to kill these individuals and go to jail possibly for the rest of your life, even though they violated your child, and you decided to be more level-headed and say the first course of action is for me to call the police. Why call the police? So that this incident can be documented and recorded amongst law enforcement. Also, that my daughter could be taken to the hospital and treated for this traumatic incident. But instead, the father shows up, doesn't call the police, doesn't go back up there to try to beat, shoot, do any type of violence that, at that time, it's definitely okay. If I'm on the jury, I'm not convicting that man if he went back up there in a crime of passion, a heat of passion, the moment, and blew Diddy and Jay-Z's head off, or at least piped them up. I'm not going to convict them as a juror, okay? But being that you didn't do any of those things, you also did not call law enforcement. You also did not take your 13-year-old daughter to the hospital that has been physically violated. You don't know if she was given a disease. You don't know if her internal organs may be so messed up that she may not be able to procreate later on in life. None of these things, but you're a father. So now that we going through this, I just would like people to take out the time to deal with the reality that a person is innocent until proven guilty. The same lawyer has a hotline set up for people to come out of anywhere from 30 or 40 years ago, 20 years ago, and say, this person did this, that, and the third to me, and now your reputation and everything else, your life could be placed in jeopardy by you going to jail, or if you don't agree with this lawsuit and pay me this money, because we have to accept this. This is some degree of extortion when the story is not true, and you take a high profile individual like Jay-Z and come up with a story like this. Once again, this is God in them streets. We do not at any given time promote any young individuals being abused in any type of manner. And whether you believe Jay or not, I'm from Brooklyn. And like he said, I'm a young man from the projects of Brooklyn. And we don't condone taking advantage of any minors, but we know it's our job to protect them.